Welcome to
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hey,
Hi,
Carol.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi,
Hi,
Carol,
Carol.
a Pluribus podcast, a podcast about Apple TV Plus's show Pluribus. My name is Catfish, and with me, as always, is someone who I've also seen clear out a room with a grenade. It's Bubba.
Catfish, this episode proved what I've always known.
What's that?
People who shop at Sprouts are depressed.
Oh, man. And we are talking about episode 3, Grenade. The world just wants to help, which infuriates Carol. A heart-to-heart conversation ends with a bang. That's almost as much of a dad joke as I made about you, Bubba. But before we get into the ratings, let's clear up a couple of mistakes we made last week that our double L's
Double L's.
corrected us on. First of all, Bubba's hero is Diabate, not Diamante. I think Bubba did say it, and then I corrected him incorrectly. And then one thing I didn't correct Bubba on because I thought I was wrong on is I did think that Diabate was the last remaining English speaker, but I let that go. So it just goes to show you when I say something, it's wrong, and when I want to say something but don't, it's right. So Diabate was the last English speaker. Bubba, let's get right into the ratings.
Whoa.
Hey, Carol.
I am giving episode 3 7 double W's.
Double W's.
Yeah, working weaponry. 7 double W's out of 10.
Whoa, that feels like a
I
drop because last week you were at 9 out of 10, Catfish.
I was Bubba, and I think this is so funny because usually, if there's any sort of like I feel narrative stalling, it's after like the blockbuster of a first episode. And in this one, we got two, which fell together like blockbusters of an episode. As you said last week, you were not as drawn in by one and then fully committed by two. So I know that things can't keep barreling forward, but I felt like this episode didn't move anything further, do anything deeper. I mean, I felt like I know no more about the story or the characters from this episode than I did previously. And in one way in which that sort of was like frustratingly clear about that, the sort of biggest like bam and then back off was what do we see at the end of episode 2? Carol stopping the plane. She wants Pirate Lady to join her and not go to Vegas with Diabate. Do we have any follow-up with that? Any conversation? Did we see what she said to her? No, we don't get any of that. So, as Bubba would say, I felt like there were no fireworks in this show. And worse than no fireworks, I honestly feel as if, and we'll see, that I could have gone from episode 2 to episode 4
Whoa.
and not missed anything with this show except for trying to imagine sleeping on a block of ice. But Bubba, let me say,
Yeah.
my favorite thing about this show
Ooh, let's hear
is
it.
all the feedback that we have that is both anti-Hive and pro-Hive.
Pro-Hive.
And people's feelings about the pros and cons of being part of a group mind.
Yeah.
So, Bubba, I think that the best thing about this episode is going to be all the amazing, thoughtful feedback we got from our loyal listeners this week. So, Bubba,
Yeah.
we always say, who cares what we think? And to prove it, we've got a lot of what you think in this week. Bubba, since no one cares about what we think, we're going to skip right over your. Oh, no, wait.
Wait,
Okay,
wait, I
tell
can't
us what you think, Bubba. What did you rate episode 3 as?
Well, I agree with you, Catfish. Our listeners' feedback is 10 out of 10. It's really great. And we're going to sprinkle it in throughout the podcast.
Oh, I love it.
This week, I'm going to give the third episode of Pluribus Season 1 8 double S's out of 10.
Double S's?
Yes. You are not allowed to do Steve's slander. When you slander Rick Steves, whether it's Rick Steves Spain, Rick Steves Italy, Rick Steves Ireland, Rick Steves Eastern Europe, Rick Steves London, or Rick Steves Germany, or the couple of Rick Steve books that I've loaned to friends, That is unallowed. No Steve slanders in my show. 8 out of 10. It was engaging. I was engaged. It was fun. It's almost fun to imagine what Carol could do or will do to get out of this hell she's trapped in. It's actually enjoyable to watch her discover kind of the no limits that she has in the world. She can get grenades and tanks and nukes, baby. Heck yeah. So 8 out of 10. Now, even as
Now that is less. That is less than you gave it last week, Bubba.
I did not think you would remember that. So kudos to you. It is just a bit down, but it's a bit down, not even so much for this episode, but what I fear. This show, the negative thing about the third episode to me was that it already feels claustrophobic. And you think claustrophobic, how is that possible? We're traveling around the world. We've got, hundreds of people restocking a grocery store for us. We are trapped with Carol. Carol is trapped. We as viewers are trapped with her. This is a show with, you would call it maybe two characters, Carol, and then the we is us is the other character.
That's a good point.
And is that really a character or more like an entity? So we are trapped with Carol, and I'm beginning to feel claustrophobic. And what is interesting to me is that Vince Gilligan, where did he start? He started in the X-Files, which was a drama really with only two characters, Mulder and Scully, right? Like it was episodic. The next week we'd meet a whole new cast. The only two characters we cared about were Scully and Mulder. Now, from that, he moved on to Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And those shows, you know what they didn't have? They didn't have big casts. Like in Breaking Bad, there may be maybe 7 main characters. If you look at it, there were sure. You're saying, wait, there are a million characters, but like Walt Jr. on Breaking Bad, it wasn't like he had really ongoing stories. He might have an episode where he got a car, but there wasn't like an ongoing story for Walt Jr. Okay. Hank's wife Marie had a kleptomaniac story early in the show, and the show forgot it, and so she didn't really have stories either. It was really focused on just a few characters, and a lot of the shows that I know our listeners love, that I love, that are popular, these type of dramas nowadays, look at the giant cast of Stranger Things, of Game of Thrones, of The Wire, of Lost, of Walking Dead. These shows have big casts, and you can jump here and you can go there. I know you're going to say, well, what about Severance? That doesn't have a huge...
What about Severance?
But Severance, how, spoiler alert, certain characters have innies and outies. And so even though there may be only like 4 of them that we're focused on, because they have 2 versions of themselves, that's like 8 characters in the show, which is already more than Breaking Bad. To be so focused on Carol, like I said, we are trapped with her.
Well,
so I enjoyed it this week, but a little tough for me. So that's my rating. Sorry.
I'm gonna agree with you and jump on, however, to the X-Files, in that there was a lot of weird other characters and weird things going on. And in here, the other character has sort of one kind of generic personality. So there's not, even though they're doing things that seem weird, they make sense within that personality. When they're not in front of a really, that's what I'm going to call Carol and the group of 11, the realies. They're just ants doing tasks. And so there isn't anything interesting. And I know we're going to talk about it, but some people are are on Carol's side, and some people are on the hive mind side. But there's no disagreement, even if you're like me and I say, well, Carol's better than I would be in this case, because I would be actively hurting the hive mind because of what it did, and what it represents to me is a killing of the 10 billion souls on the planet. That's what it represents to me. But still, I'm not as a miserable human being as Carol is. And so while I understand her, she's not a joy to be around.
Hey, that's what we think. We should edit all of this out because nobody cares what we think. Listeners, we want to know what you think. We've had so much incredible feedback. If you're not on YouTube and writing down in those YouTube comments, and we need YouTube comments, hit that like button, subscribe, give us these comments, tell us what you think. If you want to reach out to us on social media, we're at Double PHQ on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook. Reach out and tell us your thoughts, and we're going to have some big debates where we're going to want your feedback from.
And I'm going to make a personal plea since
You.
I listen to our podcast on Spotify and
Yeah.
I go to the comments and there's no comments. Make a comment on Spotify,
Heck yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Hi, Carol. Hi,
All right,
Carol.
Catfish, let's dive into
Hi,
it.
Carol.
You just kind of tipped our hand a bit. We always begin our podcast with one big question. What is the big question that all Pluribus fans want to debate and talk about? This week, the debate, the one big question is Carol the worst?
The
So
worst.
the worst. Now, we have people who are very anti Carol. One listener, a great listener, Gen X Cat Moms, who's at all mod cons with a Z on Blue Sky, they wrote, last week, the host Catfish admonished me for my dislike of Carol.
I think that might be
I
strong.
hate her even more this week after episode 3. Wizard D'Onofrio would yell about Carol, "This woman is chaff."
Wow, that just shows you how much of a long time loyal listener Gen X Cat
That
Mom
is
is.
true. Now,
Uh,
somebody with the handle The X File wrote, Carol's name should be changed to Karen. Ouch.
ouch.
And then another
Ouch.
great listener, Zephyr Cat, wrote, the show is very good, but Carol is trash. Ouch. So that's those are some listeners who agree with the debate topic. Carol is the worst. Catfish, we got anybody pro Carol writing to us?
Well, we've got some people who are supporting Carol,
Okay.
not as a person, uh, but not as someone they want to hang out with. But Rennie Six says,
Oh, we
I
love
feel
Rennie
like
Six.
Carol will save humanity.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
And Jim Rodney says, I suspect and hope that longer term what will happen is Carol starts to inject her miserableness into the hive mind, almost like a virus itself, and joined individuals start to glitch out in minor ways, leading to an open rebellion. Carol's ideas start to peel off members of the hive mind one by one. Again,
Wow.
the people who are pro Carol are not pro Carol because they want to hang with Carol. They're pro Carol because they want and feel like Carol has just the kind of massive depression that we need to defeat the hive.
Heck yeah. All right. Wow. If listeners, we're going to give our takes in a bit, but again, if you're on YouTube, go down on those comments. If you're not listening on audio podcast, comment on Spotify, reach out to us on social media because we're going to debate it right now. Is Carol the worst? As my own viewer, do I dislike the character of Carol? Not at all yet. I think what you've said already in this podcast is very true. I understand her motivation and where she's coming from in most of this show. The show decided that episode 3 is still, what, 4 days after Carol lost the most important person, the person she loved the most in her life.
Right.
And you add that to the, like in real life, in our real life, if you lost the person that you love the most, 4 days later, you're still going to be a wreck, right? Plus, you add into this horrific thing that has overtaken the earth. I understand everything Carol's going through. That said,
Yes.
we are viewers, and all those viewers who said, Carol's trash, Carol's the worst, I certainly would never say they're wrong. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But also, I can understand how I get angry. We podcast about another Apple TV show, many Apple TV shows, but one called Silo. And I get very frustrated with the lead character in that show because they are doing things which are actively fighting against their goals. Like this person on this other show, Silo, wants to get at the truth. And you're like, well, how could you get at the truth? Probably the worst way is to go just yell at people, tell me the truth, and I get frustrated and I dislike her. And so I could see people watching this and saying, Carol, you're going about this the wrong way. And I think the show is trying to tell us Carol's going about this the wrong way. So if people write that Carol's the worst, I think they're right to do it, or they're certainly within their right to do it. And while I'm not there yet, maybe a couple more episodes, I'll agree Carol is the worst. That's my take. What about you?
I agree with a lot of what you say. And again, us watching the show, I feel a lot of people don't put themselves in that position of like, these people have killed the one person I cared about in the world.
Yeah.
But what's curious is, I wonder how those people would have felt if before everything happened, we liked Carol. And Carol was an upbeat person
No, there you
because
go.
even though I feel my that I'm upbeat, I think I would feel, as I've said before, far more intimidated and far more hostile to what's happened than she is being. You've got to think Vince Gilligan thought about this, about making a character that's unlikable and then having us. I would like to know what his feelings are about that because I feel like people would like her a lot better if we liked her before things happened and she wasn't such
Well,
kind
she
of
was
a depressed downer person.
right. She was dismissing her fans, dismissing them, flat out dissing her fans. She was doing a lot of negative things. And she was with somebody who obviously cared about her, loved her, Helen, and she was at times treating Helen rough. So you are right. Okay, now I'm really just agreeing with everybody. Carol is the worst. There, that's
But I just wonder why they made that decision. We've met the other people, right? It
right.
doesn't seem like that it is her sort of, I'm really depressed about the world that has inoculated her from this virus. Your hero Kumba doesn't seem like
No,
that was his personality before. We've got a little kid who didn't seem like it was his personality. So unless it's going to be Carol, this part of her personality that has inoculated her, it seems kind of strange to make us dislike her before this happens and then be stuck with her like this. So instead of us saying, God, she was so happy and now this has torn the bottom out of her, you're almost like, well, shoot, she was miserable when she was making money and had someone who cared for her. So she's still miserable. So what? It's her personality hasn't changed because of what she's gone through, really.
let me give you one thing in this episode that,
Okay.
again, I went out at 8 out of 10. I actually enjoyed this episode a lot. But one thing in this episode did really remind me about a character on Silo, about how they're not behaving smartly. How in the world does an intelligent person like Carol not realize it's a real grenade? I mean, come on. With everything you've seen, of course it's a real grenade. And for her to assume, oh, wow, you guys really made this thing look real. I'm like, lady, have you not figured it out? They just brought you a digger to help you dig Helen's
Well,
grave.
true.
They have
Yeah.
zones in the sky. So being ignorant enough to not realize it's a real grenade, Carol, you know what? I've completely flipped. All these listeners and me reliving moments have decided Carol is the worst. I'm positive that she's going to turn it around in season 5 or 6, but right
Okay.
Catfish. So I'm agreeing. She is the worst. What about you? Where do you stand? Yay or nay?
People who are longtime listeners know that we usually like to do some sort of ladder competition. We pit
Oh,
two
okay.
people against each other, pick which of them is the worst, and
Yeah.
then put them against someone else and someone else, and someone else. In my mind, as long as the show is Carol versus the Hive Mind, I'm going to have to be Team Carol. I cannot be Team Hive
All right. All
Mind.
right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So
I've already
who's the
admitted.
worst, Carol or
Uh-huh.
the hive mind? You've put Carol. All right. Who's the
No, I
worst?
put it Hive Mind.
I'm sorry. Oh, you put hive mind. All right. But how about this? Hive mind versus pre-hive mind Carol.
Well, they're still both. Oh my God. Okay, listen. If
Yeah.
it was Carol against, it might be Carol against anybody who's still a person except for
Okay.
Lakshmi.
Oh,
Carol would be Carol is second verse to Hive Mind, but since
okay.
we mostly have Hive Mind, as you're saying, I've got to be Team Carol. Am I happy with it? No, I'm not.
You are. Look at your big smile. You're
I'm
very
not
happy
happy.
with
I'm
it.
not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. I'm stuck with
Listeners,
it.
listeners, give us those comments, reach out to us, put us in our place. If you love Carol, now, we have those positive comments about Carol, but they're kind of things people want Carol to do and kind of like they're projecting, hey, Carol will do this, it'll be great, or what Carol's doing is going to save us. If you just like her as a fun kind of anti-hero, kind of, people love Oscar the Grouch. I love Oscar the Grouch. reach out and tell us we want the pro Carol side to have some representation. Hell yeah.
And what about how pro Carol really cares about not killing any of the hive mind after the hive mind killed? I mean, there's some,
Yeah,
you gotta
okay,
have,
there you go. There
I
you
feel like
go.
you can have some sympathy for Carol, but she's, she's hard to love, Bubba. She is hard to love.
Just like this podcast. Hell yeah. Hey, Catfish, let's go to
Both of them intentionally.
right. Let me go to this one. So
Okay.
we're changing to going to our next segment here on the Hi Carol
Carol.
Hi,
podcast.
Hi, Carol.
Catfish, I thought about this before episode 3, and I thought maybe
Okay.
this is the perfect thing. And that is in the world of Pluribus, it is the death of, spoiler alert, why? Because everybody knows everything. And maybe Carol is the perfect thing the hive mind would love. Think about it. If Carol writes a book, nobody in the hive mind's going to know what she's written until they get a copy of
Oh,
it and somebody
wow.
reads it. But if
Wow.
Stephen King is about to write a new book in the hive mind, guess what? As he's typing it out, the whole world knows. Kind of as he's thinking about, hey, this will be my book and this will be the next line, everybody knows. It's almost like you can't be surprised by human things because you already know it. And so in this new world, Carol is the greatest author there is. The Winds of Wakaro is the greatest book there ever has been, the next one that's out. And so they shouldn't want to turn Carol in 6 weeks or a couple of weeks or in a couple of months or in years. They should leave her like this
It's
so
their
she can always
biological
entertain
imperative,
them.
Bubba.
Should...
Again, the hive mind does not seem to seek entertainment. They have a very strong biological imperative.
Hi, Carol.
No sense for
Carol.
drama, Bubba.
Would you stay
Carol.
married
Hi,
in a
Carol.
hive mind? Because suddenly, right now, let's do things that hopefully our significant others aren't paying attention to right now.
Okay.
But right now, like if I were out and I saw a attractive woman, might have a thought in my mind like, oh man, she is really sexy. I'd love to get intimate with her. But of course, I would never tell, like a girlfriend this because that's really rude thing to say. I wouldn't tell the girl this because, I want to go up to the stranger and be like,
Right,
oh,
right,
you're really
right.
sexy. But now they immediately would know it. And so
But what
perhaps,
you're missing, Bubba,
yeah,
is that you
yeah.
and your girlfriend and the woman you're looking at are all the same mind.
So wait a minute. Why is my girlfriend
It's
looking at that girl and getting
it doesn't,
and being
Bubba,
attracted to her? How dare you? We're splitting up.
any
Wait, you're splitting up with
any
me? Oh wait, she's splitting up
any
with me.
any member of the
Yeah.
hive mind interacting physically with another member of the hive mind is just onanism. It's plain and simple.
Let's get busy.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
All right.
All right,
that's
Bubba.
my thought. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so let's go to segment 2. Which Twilight Zone episode are we in?
No.
For every pod, we're going to try to compare this episode to a Twilight Zone episode because not only did Twilight Zone focus on aliens
Yeah.
and how alien and alien scares illuminate our humanity, but it was also just about, there were actually quite a few episodes of people discovering things alone, being alone. And so that has similarities to this and also kind of what humanity means. So, Bubba, which Twilight Zone episode did you pick for episode 3 of Pluribus?
Well, episode 28 of season 1 of The Twilight Zone is entitled A Nice Place to Visit. The episode opens with a man robbing a bank. The police catch him, shoot him. The screen goes blank. He wakes up and he's what he thinks in heaven. There's this guy named Pip. And the bank robber's like, what are you on after anyway? And Pip's like, only one thing, Mr. Valentine, your comfort. My job is to see that you get what you want, whatever it may be. And so this bank robber, Valentine, he gets whatever he wants. He spends months gambling, enjoying
Wins
beautiful
every
women,
hand, Bubba. Wins
driving
every
fast
hand.
cars, living in hotel of unparalleled luxury. Nothing is denied of him. But soon this success, this no friction in his life grows monotonous. And the people who just give him whatever he wants start grating on him. Hello, Carol. Suddenly he pleads with Mr. Pip, this angel. He's like, God, I got to get out of here. I can't stay another day. I'll go nuts. Look, I got to get out of here. I don't belong in heaven. Let me leave. And Pip says, Heaven? What made you think you're in heaven? this is the other place. Ba-boom. So asking for what he wants and getting it, that is my pick, Catfish. What do you think?
Beautiful. Now, Bubba,
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh,
I have never
really?
forgot. I mean, just
Mm.
whenever you think you just want to keep, you just gonna keep winning.
Yep.
You want to keep winning. And when he finally is like, this is boring me playing cards. I win every single hand. I win every time. And it just kind of reminded in my head that like, you know what I mean? You need the downs for the ups to feel good, for you to know.
I've had too
So
many downs. Every lottery ticket has not won me $1 billion. To
But
hell with
Bubba,
this. Get me in the
and
Twilight Zone.
and I considered this episode for last week, but
Oh.
I wanted to hold this episode, and I'll
Oh,
tell you
whoops, I've
why you're
blown it.
wrong, Bubba.
Okay, tell me.
Is that this hasn't happened yet,
Mm.
but I think it is going to happen to one of the 11 people who are left, to one of the realies,
Oh, okay.
besides Carol. And my guess is going to be Diabate because he is the one who is reveling in everything. And eventually someone is going to realize that Carol's right, that this is an empty world where you can get whatever you want.
Mm.
So I feel like this is going to happen at some point. I was holding this one. So I am picking the very first episode of Twilight Zone
Oh,
called
wow.
Where Is Everybody?
Where is everybody?
A man is walking around town that no one appears to live in. There's radios on. He sees a cigarette lit. He goes through the whole town. He's just calling out people, no one around. He sees a mannequin at one point. He thinks it's somebody, but they're not. And eventually he becomes terrified and he's yelling out. He's yelling out and he hits this button that's like a walk button, but it turns out it's an abort button for a trial because he's in an isolation experiment test to be an astronaut for long-term space travel by himself.
Oh,
And I know it's not a perfect parallel,
no.
but I found the closing narration of this to be very insightful for tonight's episode.
This is the
And
Rod
really,
Serling
yes,
says this?
the
Okay,
Rod
good.
Serling.
Yeah, give
He
it to me.
says, the barrier of loneliness, the palpable, desperate need of the human animal to be with his fellow man. Up there in the vastness of space, in the void that is sky, up there is an enemy known as isolation. It sits there in the stars waiting, waiting with the patience of eons, forever waiting in the Twilight Zone. So I
Man.
think this is Carol is becoming, she is. There's a lot of come here, come here, come here. No, get away, get away, get away in this episode. She wants to be alone, and it's not just because her sprouts has been fished out. She wants to be alone, but she needs a connection.
Mm, Well, that's completely wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when I say wrong, I mean your Rod Serling impersonation. It's terrible.
I tried my best. I needed
Okay.
to be smoking.
Well, the next segment we like to do here on the podcast called Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
You gotta
Hi, Carol.
laugh,
Hi, Carol.
Catfish. This episode you only went 7 out of 10 for the rating. You gotta laugh. Anything make you laugh? Let's hear it.
All right. So there was really not much,
Oh,
although this is what I liked.
okay.
When Carol was like, you got to get me on the phone to this guy who has refused to communicate with you, even though he doesn't speak English.
Yep.
So first he doesn't say anything. Then he yells at her. So she's like, get him on the phone again. And we gets him on the phone before he can say anything. She says, chinga tu madre, and hangs up on him.
Ice cold.
For me, the DHL guy, and I don't know if this is kind of a mistake or whatever, he's the first Hive person to show any kind of affect
Yeah.
because he is concerned at one point when he's like, yes, we'll get you a nuke. But then he's like, do you want a nuke? And just the way he said it was like, please don't want one because then we got to figure this out. And, that's kind of an interesting point. We'll talk about it when we get to it as far as like, they don't want to hurt anybody, but also you could hurt somebody if you provide them with something. But again, we'll get into that later. Bubba, do you did you like either of those, or do you want to go off the board
Well,
for
the
your
one
gotta
that made
laugh?
me laugh, Catfish, was on the plane. Carol is speaking like the pilots have just announced themselves and how many years of flying experience they have, and Carol's like, "That's even weirder than the gal from TGI Fridays," and she's just kind of talking almost to herself. She's like, "You're doing this because she freaked me out, right?" And then you hear the pilot. That's affirmative, Carol. It made me laugh. It made me laugh. They provide the laughs. Catfish, why do you hate the hive mind so much when they give me a laugh? Let's go, hive mind.
I don't know why they bothered to say we've got these bodies have 51 years experience. They should say our hive mind has 3,240,000
Yes.
years of experience flying.
Plus, because with their TGI experience, they also have flavor. It's great.
Flair. Flair.
Flair,
That would have been great if
exactly.
the pilots were still had some flair on.
Hi,
All right,
Carol.
Bubba,
Hi,
we got to
Carol.
get into this
Hi,
recap, and then we got to
Carol.
get
Sure.
into
Hi,
the
Carol.
the listener feedback.
Heck yeah.
Holy cow. So we get a flashback, Bubba. I had to
Yep.
carefully pay attention to the screen to see which way the numbers were
I
going.
did
I don't
too.
know
I did
why
too.
I didn't know why they don't just do before event and after event. But anyway, okay, oh, okay, this is before the event. We are in what is clearly, I mean, this might be one of the things that proves that humans should be extinguished. People have gone to an extreme event to
Oh yeah.
create an ice hotel that only
Yes.
pops up once a year, that's got intricate carvings, that apparently is, I don't know, maybe they're staying for a week. $100,000 for a room for a week.
Oh my
And why
Lord.
shouldn't it be
Oh
somebody
my
who's
Lord.
won like the Ice Carver of the Year has carved some pictures in? They've got some nice view screens for the Aurora Borealis. I mean, wow, it is incredible. And once again, for
Once
all the
again.
people who would like to believe in humanity but can't, because even when Carol is in this amazing place, she is still a Debbie Downer.
Let me say, I don't want to sleep on a block of ice either, but you need to know this ahead of time. But to me, this is opposites attract, right? Like you've always heard it. Helen is the positive person. Carol, one is the oil, one is the vinegar. And so Carol, her book has made the bestseller list. I'm going to assume this is 7 years
But where,
ago,
Bubba?
but
But where?
near the bottom of the top 20. I mean, come on. This is,
Now this has to be though. This is can't be her first book. Otherwise,
I wouldn't think so.
they couldn't have spent $100,000 on this
Okay,
vacation
good point. Good point.
unless they already knew if this was her first book that it was going to be the pre-sales were a smash or something. But anyway, so go ahead.
Have you ever been in a place like this where things are really going your way, but you can't celebrate it? You're like so frustrated it just can't happen. What do you do? How does Carol get out of this, or does she never get out of this? This is 7 years before the hive mind took over. Should we assume she's been like this her whole life, or at least for the last 7 friggin' years? Holy smokes.
I'm starting to feel better for Val. I think she's better off now. You would drag around an anchor for 7 years.
Oh man. Oh man. Well, okay. So Val is their book manager, and she and Helen learned to write. Everybody will be happy. All right. So then we get back to once again. This is 3 days after the joining. We're gonna proceed to 4 days after the joining. Carol is flying home, and she does have this thing. I talked about how it's claustrophobic because we're just strapped with Carol. It feels like this is the next person and I'm going to mispronounce their names. It's Manusus Oviedo. Hopefully, Oviedo, maybe.
Okay.
Hopefully, I pronounced this right. But it feels like this is our person. This is somebody who doesn't want to talk to the hive mind. Admittedly, he doesn't want to talk to Carol either, but Carol can't really communicate with him right now. He actually was hidden from the hive mind. This kind of threw me. They weren't aware of this person for the first 33 hours after the joining. So this guy, and I assume it's a guy from that name, he could be our savior on this. What do you think about this one of the 11 who could possibly hate the hive mind even more than Carol, Catfish?
I mean, you have to assume that somehow this is a guy who was assumed dead or been out of contact with friends and family for a long time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were trying to, like, sweep everybody up, kiss everybody, lick their donuts, all that they were trying to do. So, yeah, interesting.
They get home. Carol wants to be alone. She's presented with mail that was in transit. And one of the things is a present from Helen, this massage gun.
Hmm.
And it's like Carol can't even enjoy it. This is something from Helen, but she can't enjoy it. And she gives them an ultimatum. Get Helen out of your head right now. I'm the only one who gets to remember her. I guess that's okay. What are your thoughts about that, Catfish? Certainly I think the idea of get her out of your head is good, but still it's a bit like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, let us remember her too.
No, you can't have her. She just doesn't, you know,
I don't know because you're not saying it.
it just feels if you lose somebody
Yeah.
or is close to you, if you had them constantly reminding you about them and bringing it up, it just feels like, yes, you want those things to be private. These people didn't have those experiences with her, but they've got of all of Helen's stories. They know what Carol's really going to use that Theragun for.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Carol.
Although having a Theragun myself, I can tell you even the lowest setting is very aggressive. So
Okay. All
I would
right.
not use it for any personal activity.
All right. So, Catfish, the world is ending. You just
Hmm.
kind of want to be on your own and kind of wallow in your own misery. Is this when you start watching the Golden Girls? I've never really watched the Golden Girls. I'm a terrible person to say about this, but it's a unique thing for Carol to love. I know people love it. Is this how you're going to spend your final days watching Golden Girls before they take over your mind, Catfish? What are
I
you going to do?
mean,
What are you going to do?
if Betty White's constant stream of zingers can't uplift your spirits, I
Yeah.
don't know what it would.
Okay, come on, let's go, let's go. Yeah, I mean, it feels like the episodes are at time talking to Carol. I mean, Betty White's making a joke about somebody born without smiling muscles. Hello, I burn, ouch, ice cold diss there. And then, oh
Hmm.
my God, they bring her food. In a lot of ways, this would be perfect. Oh, the meals I love, but she can't even enjoy it. She has to throw it away because they're stealing memories from a trip she took in 2012 to see the Indigo Girls.
Well,
Cat.
not only that, they're all in
Ouch.
her business. They know what's in a refrigerator.
Yes.
So and also she's like, huh, they don't know everything. I've got three-quarters of the thing of milk, not a quarter, huh?
Yeah, get new cleaners. Your cleaners need to know
Right.
the exact amount you got. Ay,
So
ay, ay.
Carol decides to go to Sprouts.
Big
Unfortunately,
mistake. Go to Whole Foods, whole paycheck. Get something else.
well, I mean, presumably, she didn't think this through.
No.
So they emptied it out, and then that makes sense. You want to put the
Yeah,
food somewhere. You don't want to have all this food sitting here rotting. Let's remember this hive mind still has all these bodies to field.
of
Now,
course. Yeah.
theoretically, they've got enough people to keep most of the production going and most of the production lines going.
Yeah.
This is probably less trouble than it was during COVID, but still, it is not wise to keep open a store for her. Although they could have kept it open for the people who are living in that neighborhood. But so she's like, I don't need you to wait on me. I'm very independent. I just want my sprouts back. So independently, they bring her uh, everything. They completely fill up the sprout store,
Right. They're
even though
totally
that is
waiting
not.
on her.
They
Right.
are
She's not going to get
completely.
everything. What a waste.
They are completely waiting on her.
Hey, let me ask you this question. Is
Mhm.
Carol abusing her power by doing this? Like, is once again, she says, I don't want anybody to wait on me. Restocking a whole supermarket just for you, Carol, that is waiting on you. Is she abusing her power? Yay or nay, Catfish? What says you?
Well, it all depends on, do you really think that when she said, I just want my sprouts back, she wanted the store completely restocked. I mean, they're just like, you got it. We're going to fill everything
You
up to
got
the
it, girl.
brim. I don't think that's what they wanted. So, yeah, it seems reasonable if they really want to keep her alive that they should have a place where she can go and shop. And if she wants to feel independent, that she should have choices, but not that she should have an entire store available for her. Again, I think this is more of the hive mind. Let's,
How about
the hive mind,
the politeness?
the
Politeness is
hive.
the hive mind. The
This is
one
the
guy
whole
at the front of the
thing.
line, he's like, Carol, may we sneak past you here? That's polite. Be kind to
Again,
the
but
hive
what's
mind.
behind the politeness? Yes, they say they don't want to hurt anything, but they want to completely subsume her into the hive mind. So it
Is
all
that
depends
hurting?
on
But
what
they
you
don't
mean by
think that's
hurt.
hurting. They don't think that's hurting. So they have a different
They
definition of
don't
hurt.
they don't think that's hurting, right? So Carol,
They know pushing past her would hurt, so they ask ahead of time and say, "Hey, can we get past you?" What thankful hive mind.
yeah. Well, you know what else is good about the hive mind is
What?
that she knows she cares about conservation, so they decide to turn out the lights for people who aren't going to need it. And
No,
Bubba,
this they did not decide this, Catfish. I think this is a clue to what's going to happen to the hive mind. They have trouble keeping the lights on. How is it possible if you know everything that everybody knows that you can't keep the lights on? This will be real interesting. I think this is a sign of the
no,
hive mind weakness.
okay, interesting. I disagree with you
What?
because I think just like the supermarket, that it doesn't make sense to have this stuff going on and if it's not needed. And it's also more proof to me. What does the hive mind do when they're not performing for the realies? They're doing nothing. They're not watching TV. They're not watching the Golden Girls. They don't need electricity. They're just going to sit there like a robot that's turned off until they're needed for a function. It'll be interesting to see. In these cases where we disagree, I would say 90% of the time you're right. So I can't wait to be proved wrong again.
Well, how about this? How about this? Thank you for being a friend.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
What
Hi,
if the
Carol.
hive
Hi,
mind
Carol.
sang
Hi,
and acted
Carol.
out Golden Girls episodes for her? Wouldn't that be a thrill? Or is it more of a thrill
If
to,
she asked them, they would do it.
hell yeah? What show do you want the hive mind to act out? You're like, boy, the acting on the show was fine, but if it was here live theater, it'd be so much better.
No, how about this?
Yeah?
Bubba,
Yeah.
this is what I want.
Let's hear it.
Fly me to Hawaii, and I need you to do the entire series of Lost for me,
We have to go back.
including crashing the plane.
But they listen, they have experience at that, right? Look at all the hours they have.
I just give me Lost.
Catfish, why? I'm Billy. She's taking pills and alcohol at the same time, it feels like. Why do you think Carol says, get me a hand grenade? Just because she's like flippant? She's obviously being sarcastic. How did a hand grenade come to her head? They don't have hand grenades on Golden Girls, so that wasn't like, oh, I saw it, now I want it.
I mean, it does seem like a random thing. Like it made me
Yes.
first think like, where do you get a hand grenade in Albuquerque? And I'm just thinking, of course, there's somebody who was a prepper living close to Albuquerque who sure could have gotten her a hand grenade,
Yeah, George
a
R. R.
bunch of
Martin.
AK-47s, sure,
Yes.
sure, a Jets hat and a
Yep.
Giants hat and a sailor's cap, sure,
Yep.
all those things. Oh my God, Bubba, you just made me think about this. If George R. R. Martin was still alive and he was absorbed into the hive mind, I
Yep.
would be willing to be absorbed into the hive mind just to figure out how much he's really finished writing.
No, no, you
The
because the hive
song
mind is
of
now
Ice and
you. No,
Fire.
you're saying how much he's solved or finished, but now it's how much you've finished, and you've been like, oh my God, I've only written
But
two
now I
pages.
know. But now I
I've
know.
only written
Now
two
I
pages
know.
of these
But
three
now I
books.
know. Now I know.
He
And I don't
lives near
and I
Albuquerque. Santa Fe
And I
is not
won't
far
feel
away.
guilty anymore because I'll just be like, you know what? I just really enjoyed. And I would know how many pages were cut out of his books describing banquets that were set.
Now, Catfish, the hive mind doesn't understand sarcasm. So does this mean that nobody on Earth except Carol and maybe the other people in the 11 are sarcastic because Osha says, we thought you probably being sarcastic, but we didn't want to take the chance. Feel better, Carol. Whoa, whoa.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people
they
aren't
don't.
sarcastic anymore. Wow. Who is like somebody who you would be shocked that they could live if they weren't sarcastic anymore?
Me,
No, I'm
you.
serious.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Uh,
Imagine how boring this podcast would
how
be.
much
Even
cleaner,
more
right?
boring.
Right. No, no tangents, just straight facts. So Carol invites her in. I think she's doing it because she's lonely. They start drinking. They the hive mind have been working around the clock to, get her to be part of it. It's the biological imperative part of this catfish, but they don't know. It could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months, could be 4 or 5 seasons of TV show. They don't
So
know.
here's the question, Bubba.
Yeah.
Have they been trying? She's interacted with a lot of people. There's no way she
Oh,
can stay away from her. Do they already have some prototype things they've been trying on her? Who could
okay.
they test them on to see if it would work and not kill her?
No, no, great question. You
Because
need
I
a
believe
control
that they
group and yeah.
yeah, I believe that they do not want to kill or hurt her. At this point, I definitely believe that. It's just that I'm not pro ego death.
Well, how do you test? That's a great point. In catfish, they're not turning on the lights because it's like humans aren't going to kill each other anymore. What about wild animals? Are animals part of the group mind? What if a wild dingo comes out of the Albuquerque desert and bites somebody? You can't control that, can you, hive mind? I don't know. A dingo ate my Albuquerque neighbor.
I was just reading a story set in Albuquerque. Well, it
Oh,
wasn't set in Albuquerque, it was set more out in the desert. The writer lives in Albuquerque, and
sure.
it made me reappraise, having read about it, what real a-holes roadrunners are.
Whoa, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've been
Mm-hmm.
treating those coyotes terrible, so I kind of don't blame them.
So after we get a
Well, hold
very
on, hold on. I want
fascinating story about vodka. Yes, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. So, is that the kind of stuff the hive mind is interested in? They're talking about the etymology of the word, right? Vodka. What do you think interests them? Like they find that fascinating? Like you could watch certain channels on YouTube talking about this interesting, that thing.
I mean,
But
what could interest them? It's like, I mean, they pretty much have the totality of human knowledge,
right.
right? Anybody who's, people have read books. They probably have read most of the books produced in one way or the other. This hive mind produced all the media that is available to people, all history, all that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just like, oh, here's vodka. Let's talk about vodka.
Once again, wouldn't they be more interested in books like The Winds of Wakaro or in guides like Rick Steves' guides to travel? These jerks.
Maybe she should have combined it and been like, well, here in Bulgaria, a four-star tour is where they produce the vodka.
Keep
Let me
on
tell you
hive minding.
the history of vodka. Now, don't mix the vodka with the weed.
No, he loves weed. Rick
He
Steves
loves Rick
loves weed.
Steves.
There he is. He's
He's my
smoking weed right
hero.
now.
All right.
No, but there was this interesting kind of back and forth because the life preserver example, and Carol's like, "Oh, so now I'm drowning," and the we is us say, "You just don't know it yet." Ouch, ouch, catfish. I need a hive mind Rick Steves to come on this show and straighten poor evil Carol out. That's what I say.
As we said, Rick Steves would have what she needs to chill out.
Right, and Rick Steves to keep him happy, it'd be all the marijuana in Europe. All right, okay, enough on Rick Steves. Let's just get to it. Carol pulls the pin, and this is crazy. But you're right. In some ways, it shows that as cranky and grouchy and all the trauma she's gone through has made her very sour. She doesn't want to kill anybody, even this person who is almost like her representative of the hive mind. She doesn't want her to die, so she brings her to the emergency room, and she doesn't die.
Well, she's like, "Can you help us?" That was so great. She's like, "Can you help us?" And we're like, "Yeah, we already know. Did you forget we're the hive mind? Help's on the way." And
Well,
then she
but
has,
there was an interesting line there too. The guy with the DHS was the delivery guy. He comes out and says, "Carol, your quick thinking really saved the day." And it's like, wait a minute, you're sure it wasn't your quick thinking? How did Carol's quick thinking save the day? I got lost in that.
I thought it was Zosia
Yeah, she was the
that
one who
pulled
dived
Carol
on
away.
her,
Yeah.
but maybe by getting her to the hospital, I don't know. Yeah, this, huh?
No, again, they're just trying to suck up so they can subsume her, Bubba.
Good, good.
Don't trust the hive mind. And so then there's that scene is very funny, and part of it was in the trailer
Yep.
already. So she's asking for whatever, and then eventually what was not in the trailer was she asked about an atom bomb, and that's when there's a little question about it. They're like, "Yeah, I mean, we would discuss the pros and cons of you having an atom bomb." And then she's like, okay, but then what if I then like, yeah, yeah, okay, we give you one. And so this is the confusing thing because
Let's hear it.
if the hive mind can't hurt anything themselves,
Yeah, you don't think so.
you would think that they wouldn't provide the opportunity for someone who basically said, it's like you can't go to a therapist and say, I'm going to kill somebody and be okay. But if you've killed them already and then you say, I killed somebody, they have to keep that quiet. I can't see that they would be cool with that. With saying, if she's telling us she's actually going to kill things and we provide it with her, don't they have a responsibility? Wouldn't they consider that? I mean,
Right,
there was a
yeah.
little bit of this
No,
in the
you're
last
100% correct.
episode
You're 100%
when
correct.
when Kumba was like, when Diabate was like, but if I kill the chicken, will you prepare it? And they're like, yes. So there's something weird there.
It's tricky. It's tricky is all I can say. I just don't know. What do
All
you
right,
want to
Bubba.
happen? Do you want her to have the atom bomb?
No, I want her to
Well,
go
you
off
hate
on
them. You
people,
hate
and
these people.
I
You hate
do,
these.
I do, but I feel like she'd be hurting the environment when all she knows to do
Okay.
is all she needs to do is have a little hissy fit like once every hour and just you know, and eventually they'll either leave her alone or maybe then they will stop moving around so that they're in safe places, and that will sort of break up the hive mind. I don't know.
Hi, Carol.
All right,
Hi,
Bubba. So
Carol.
of course now we've gone through the episode. Now we
Hi,
have to do the
Carol.
skin suit of the week, and that is the Hive Mind MVP.
Yes.
Bubba, who is your representative of the Hive Mind who is an MVP this
It
week?
was the guy at the end, DHL dude. Give her the nuke. I love it.
He was so good. But I'm going to have to give it to the pilot. Not only the pilot on
Oh,
our
really?
plane,
Okay.
not only did he have a very calm and comforting
Oh,
voice,
yeah,
but
100%.
also dressed professionally. They're like, if Carol sees us, we want her to think we're real professional pilots and we're going to take off our flair.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
All right, Bubba. This is
Hi,
the most
Carol. Hi,
important
Carol.
segment here
Here we go.
because
Finally.
this is Pluribus or you us.
What does that mean, Catfish?
That means based on this episode, where would you rather live? In the Pluribus world or in our present day US?
Whoa, okay. So for me, I have to say, with the grocery prices being sky high, put me in Pluribus. I don't think Carol had to pay for any groceries. Let's go. Pluribus. Let's
Oh,
roll.
Bubba, listen, I got a
Yeah.
question that I think you can answer that will tell you what my answer is. In which of these two realities do you not have to worry about canceled or delayed flights? Pluribus. So obviously it has to be Pluribus because it's functioning better than the US.
There you go. Join us, Catfish.
Carol.
Everybody,
Join us.
we want to hear your
Hi,
answer
Carol.
based on episode 3. Would you rather live in the Pluribus world or here in the United States? Tell us here at the Hi
Hi,
Carol.
Carol.
podcast.
Carol.
We want
All
to
right,
know.
Bubba. We've
Yeah.
got feedback on the
Oh, yes.
episodes, and I'm sorry, I moved them around into sections, so we've got feedbacks on 1, 2, and 3 mixed in. But I have to say, some of these responses have been trimmed. but I tried to keep like people's main points across as intended. And I'm going to ask you, please keep giving feedback. We love it. So I have separated the feedback into pro Hive,
Go Hive.
anti-Hive,
Bo Hive.
pro Carol, and
Go
some
Carol.
general. And then there's an additional section, which I will say at the end. Oh, and I see Bubba's already removed the heading for that section because he's
Yes, I
afraid.
did.
But it's too late, Bubba. We're already doing it. So, okay, pro Hive,
Pro Hive.
Gen X Cat Mom. She
8
says
out of
8
10 double W's, Catfish.
double
For episodes 1
W's.
and 2. Witchy women. OMG, Carol is the worst. Here we go.
Yeah.
She's needlessly rude and mean all the time. We saw her take Xanax. I'd say she needs to triple her dose. The sprout scene was extremely well done. The precision of the people, mostly in real time, was top-notch coordination. So, hey, there you go.
All right, good.
work,
Read the next one,
Hive.
Bubba, then I'll take on Pat Mant.
All right, we got our friend Exert 2020 on YouTube. They wrote, "We have the big question, are their actions good or bad?" Meaning, is the hive mind action good or bad?
Right.
My thinking is that while, yes, some humans will die in the process, this is designed to stop humans harming each other, and they're stopping them advancing and either wiping themselves out or growing and endangering other life in the universe.
That is fascinating.
I hope this show really pushes it beyond what we initially think, and it is a galactic network, a universal consciousness where intelligence has developed to attack bad things and reinforce good things, all with the aim for life to flourish and survive into the distant future. This is how an intergalactic peace project works, maybe. Love this thought. That's really smart.
I do. I just want to say, all with the aim for one life to flourish and survive into the
One
distant future.
love, one love.
Just
You're
one
lucky
life.
just to have just one love.
All right, so our good old buddy
Wonderful man.
Patman 23,
Hell
who's
yeah.
always been supportive of us from the beginning, despite our shenanigans.
Pat Man may have literally downloaded our very first podcast ever. This guy, true hero.
He'd been a big supporter from day one.
Yep.
We had an email back and forth. Patman is so generous. He did it with Severance too, because he would had his innie would comment one way and his outie would comment another way. So I can't remember whether the email is his innie or his outie, but he does say, "I do tend to take the hive mind's word that they aren't aliens,
Okay.
except that they seem to have some pre-programmed natural instincts, like being unwilling to kill any living thing.
Okay.
The hive mind members still have some recognition of their previous individuality," he says.
There you go. Catfish Pro Hive Mind. Let's hear it.
In some ways, Lakshmi's grandfather isn't dead, just like Helen isn't dead. Their memories are saved by the hive, but we haven't seen the show try to do something like have one of the hivers talk to Carol as Helen. I do think it's a loss if a member of the hive dies, even though the hive will survive and will largely go unchanged. There's a difference now, but that difference might only be meaningful to the humans who are not yet part of the hive. I just don't think it's ethical to murder them. And he apologizes to me for thinking that way. My response to him was, although Lakmi's son does still act as her own son to her, I believe when he's not around her, he would act like all the others of the hive mind with no agency, wants, or desires of his own.
interesting.
In other words, if the hive mind has a task for him to do, otherwise he'll just be on standby, and I feel like it's parroting. Now, Patman says just quickly, I feel that any hive member is likely to be a classic pod person or slightly like their original and never everyone else. And I said, but when they're alone, they aren't like anyone or they're like everyone,
Yeah.
depending on your view. It seems like they don't act like themselves unless they're performing for a really.
Catfish, I want to say that you brought up some good points, but Pat Man should replace you, Hive Mind.
Absolutely.
What?
Absolutely. There's never been any doubt about that. Now, pro Carol, Rennie Six again says, I feel like Carol will save humanity, but that's just a guess. But perhaps we deserve to be taken over at this point.
Heck yeah. Love Reenie6. Love a longtime loyal listener, Dooley's Left Leg on Twitter.
Oh, man. Dooley's left leg said, Hi,
Hi,
Carol.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
I'm loving
Hi,
it.
Carol.
Went in blind and so glad I did. Then when I saw you were covering it, it was like Christmas come early. 9 quadruple ends.
Quadruple ends.
Nuisance neighbors neutralized nicely.
Oh, hell yeah.
Rhythmic Monster said, love the first two episodes, did find them slightly confusing, however.
Huh.
Dal will have any answers about that till the final two or three episodes. Current my thoughts are that, yeah, I doubt you can come back from this.
Dennis, who's given us many comments on a couple podcasts, wrote, Hi,
Hi,
Carol.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Indeed,
Hi, Carol.
amazing
Hi,
debut
Carol.
episodes. Two notes on the pod. 8 million, Bubba.
Mm-mm.
The death toll at the joining was 886 million plus. Not to mention the 11 million joined Carol cut off at the knees when she blew a gasket. Thank you, Dennis. Keep me straight. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Zephyr Cat said both episodes 8 out of 10 double S's.
Double S's.
Psychic saliva. Yes, Zephyr Cat. Yes, Zephyr
Catfish
Cat.
has influenced.
However, Zephyr
However,
Cat notes that they are rating on the double M scale.
oh,
That's Matt Murdock, who can
heck
never
yeah.
go lower than 7.
Heck yeah, Zephyr Cat. Now, Gayleen, who's given many great comments on many of the shows we cover here at Double PHQ,
Hmm.
she said, hey, there's mentions of the dogs having slipped their change, and so chains, excuse me. And so she says the premise is that the dogs are finally free and immediately run away from their people. Gayleen notes, my dogs and I love each other. They would
Yes.
no more run away from me than I would run away from them.
Hell yes.
If people's dogs are leaving them, that's an indication that something is wrong with the human beings.
Hmm.
Woo hoo hoo, catfish. You love dogs. Do you agree with Gayleen that if a dog's not going to stay with quote unquote its owner, even if the owner gives it up, that it's not them anymore? These are not the people that these poor sweet puppies knew.
Well, the first dog that Ms. Catfish and I had, who passed away at 16,
Oh,
definitely wouldn't have left me. But our
oh,
present dog, who's 5,
yeah.
the gate was open one time and we had to search around the neighborhood for him. So,
Oh.
is something wrong with me, or does my dog just like to roam around?
It's the former. Okay, so
Leaving aside the idea whether the individual or the society is considered most important culturally, there's this question. What would you give to be a free individual? Living the way most people in North America do, it might feel like nothing is as important as being free because you're able to be free, most people, and fed and clothed and sheltered all at once. But
okay.
what if you're literally starving day by day? What if the idea of no one needs to go hungry again is an abstraction, but a promise that you and everyone you know can eat for the first time in days or weeks? That probably changes how you view this situation. I figured Carol was going to find that out. And
Whoa.
that
Whoa.
is an amazing thing that I did not think of.
Thank you for that great feedback.
Now, let me read this next one because
Okay.
this person agrees with me. At
You.
Corin Yen says, I've messed that name up too. Currently, there's only 13 free willed beings on Earth. Just like I said, 12
Oh,
individuals and one collective consciousness made up of 7 billion people. The actual bodies of the hive mind aren't really individuals, they're appendages.
hey.
If an individual body dies, those memories and experience continue to exist. And as an appendage, if your right hand is injured, you can decide to open the doorknob with your left hand.
What?
So, big whoop.
Hey.
Now, here's the real question. Even though the hive mind has subsumed 7 billion collective memories and experiences into one personality, does it have a right to exist? What happens if an individual can be disconnected from the hive mind? Would that person feel completely alone? Would the newly separated individual still feel that life still has meaning and value? Or would it depend on whether from before you were one of the 3,028 billionaires, or if you were one of the 757 million chronically hungry, or the 204 billion who are food insecure, not knowing where their next meal is coming from?
Is this not the greatest feedback ever? Thank you so much. If you
This
haven't yet,
is
go down in
the
the
greatest
comments. We
feedback
love it,
ever.
love it. Another person who's given us many great comments on shows we've covered here, Zombie Italian said, is the earth better or worse off now that there's a hive mind? I will answer it with this great statement. Those who give up their freedom for security end up with neither. Woohoo, that's a good comment
Oh,
there, Zombie Italian. They continue, I also think Carol hit the nail on the head right in episode 2. Everyone was not given a choice. Even the Matrix said the big issue was choice. With that, is Carol at fault for killing 11 million people for making them upset? Or is it the we virus's fault for taking over humanity without consent?
And they give it 9 out of 10 CANAs, Bubba.
What, CANAs?
Yeah, that's cool alien, not alien show.
Ah, hell yeah.
And they're getting Severance vibes. Now, Bubba, you refused
Here
to
we
let me
go.
title this last
Here we
section,
go,
so I'll
here
leave it
we
alone.
go,
But
here we
people
go.
can figure it out. First, we got 2 comments along similar lines. Someone said, we are on the opposite
Yeah,
end of
this
the
is Zombie
political
Italian. This
spectrum.
is Zombie Italian, yeah.
That was Zombie Italian continuing with
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Everyone is entitled to their opinion. We can agree to disagree. I will, however, say by putting your political views on your channel will cause some not to watch and could prevent or slow your growth.
Thank you for that, Zombie
Mr.
Italian.
Q said, you lost me on your Trump comment, unsubscribed.
Wow.
To which one of our other listeners replied, AJ1918, did they speak badly about the triple O?
Triple O?
Obscene orange oath.
Ouch. So let me say, and certainly Mr. Keo, if he's unsubscribed, he'll never hear this, but Zombie Italian, who's on the different political spectrum than we are, the one thing I always say is that who cares what we think? But I also say that if we're going to do this, we have to be true to ourselves. If you were hanging out with Catfish and I, kind of in any scenario, we're going to crack wise about everything. We may curse more than we're currently cursing, but we would certainly
True.
also make jokes about certain political things we don't like or politicians we don't like. And so if that rubs you the wrong way, we certainly apologize. But the experience you're getting in this crazy podcast is an experience with us, and that's what we're trying to sell. Who cares what we think? Hopefully it doesn't matter what we think. Catfish doesn't really care what I think. I don't really, get too upset with the crazy thing he thinks, and we want everybody along with this ride as we make silly cracks about everybody, but it's certainly the guy who's in all these Epstein emails at the current moment. What do you think,
All right,
Catfish?
Bubba. Bubba, I just think that, I recognize that this is not the first time someone has unsubscribed for this reason, and it won't be the last. And I have, we do this. We love doing this because we love the shows and we love connecting with people and talking about these shows and being ourselves. And in being ourselves, I guess the thing is, it's like, this isn't our second career. This is a fun thing. And so we're going to be ourselves.
Hell yeah.
I mean, there's lots of times I say things about the business and people in the business that I shouldn't be saying because
That's
I'm an
true.
actor in the business and I should be all sunshine all the time. So I even put my real work in peril by saying the stuff I do on this show. So I'm certainly not going to censor other thoughts.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, we still hope you join us.
Yeah.
Especially for next week, episode 4. Please,
Carol.
Carol tests the boundaries of this weirdly honest world, the expense of her ego.
Whoa.
Us, ego death. Far away, a resolute individual learns he's not alone.
Wow.
And you can join us next week on Hi,
Hi,
Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.